What's going on, guys? It's the Markham Knight here. Today I'm very excited to talk about something that was in New York Comic Con. It was a panel done with Jim Lee and someone who you guys might know. It was Reginald Hudlin, which is writer, director, and author. He's also been a producer. He was the producer on Django Unchained. So before I do talk about him, I want to talk about what the panel was about, which was Milestone Media. Now, for those of you who don't know, Milestone Media was the Dakota universe. The Dakota universe had such characters as Static Shock, also had Icon and Rocket. Now, Static Shock people might know because he was in the DC universe for quite some time. After DC bought over Milestone Media, they did use their characters in some of their storylines. Static Shock actually had his own TV show. Before I do talk about that, I just want to kind of announce what they're doing here. They decided to go with a new label for this universe called Earth M. Now, Earth M sounds kind of cool. To be completely honest, I do believe it still is a part of the DC multiverse. I myself was not at the panel. I wish I could have asked that question if it's going to be within the DC multiverse. If it is, I'm going to kind of talk about what that would mean. But otherwise, I do want to talk about the stuff that they announced first. So they announced the Earth M. It's basically the main title. The main title of Earth M is going to feature Icon and Rocket, who are two of their main characters, and it's kind of an anthology. So it's going to kind of have a bunch of different stories and introduce new characters and all sorts of cool stuff. Another book that they're going to have is Static Shock. Now, Static Shock, for those of you who don't remember, there was a TV show that linked with the Justice League and the Batman old TV show and the Superman old TV show. So that was kind of very cool for people who grew up in that time to see that kind of stuff happen. Those of you who don't know the character, he's basically a 14-year-old boy named Virgil Hawkins who gets superpowers in the middle of a gang war. During a gang war, there's an unknown chemical that's used and he gets his powers. That's a very quick breakdown of what he is. They also announced something called Duo, which is a new book, new characters. It's essentially a weird story about a couple who have to share one body for the rest of eternity, I believe. And then Love Army, which is this sort of secret Illuminati army of women, which is kind of cool. You can see the picture there. It's just a little sketch, but it is cool looking. And we don't really know what that's about either. They're basically kind of like the Amazons, but we don't know what their power set would be. I believe it was mentioned that they have super strength. But otherwise, there are new characters being introduced. Now, what I think is going to happen here, I think the Earth M universe is going to be within the DC universe. So, or not the DC universe, sorry, the DC multiverse. So, for those of you who don't know, the DC multiverse is this huge thing. There's kind of the 52 universes. Well, this has been done a couple of times over. So in the beginning, the DC multiverse had an infinite number of universes. And then after Crisis of Infinite Earths, it kind of compressed to just one universe and they deleted the multiverse essentially. Then with Infinite Crisis, they kind of brought it back a little, but not really. And then with, And then with the new 52, they brought back 52 universes. Now, DC had a book called Multiversity, and in that was a multiverse guidebook. In the multiverse guidebook, it kind of explained what each universes would be. Now, if you look at the map of the multiverse here, you can see that there are the 52 universes, there's the Rock of Eternity, there's the God sphere that's around it, which is like heaven, hell, the Greek gods' underworld versus their sky world and all sorts of stuff like that. That's basically also where Apocalypse is and New Genesis is, where Darkseid and Highfather would be. And then there's the Speed Force outside of everything, then there's the Source Wall outside of that, and outside of that is the Source himself. Now, what I think, if we focus in on this part right here, you can see that there are 7 unknown universes. Now, they didn't say anything about these 7 unknown universes, not yet anyway, not that I've seen anywhere in comics yet. So I think Earth M is one of those unknown universes. That's just completely speculation on my part, but definitely feel like that is what that is. So I do think Earth M will reside within the larger DC universe, or sorry, DC multiverse. And it would be cool to kind of see them kind of coexist with each other. Because for those of you who don't know, Static hasn't really gone away. Static has been in DC Comics for quite some time. Icon's made some appearances here and there, even in the New 52. Icon kind of made one appearance, I believe it was in Stormwatch, but he's not in it. Static had his own book all the way up until the New 52. So he kind of had his own thing going on. So it's going to be interesting to see from the New 52, because the New 52 is still canon in Rebirth. So it's still continuing on from that same continuity. So it's interesting to see where Static went from the New 52 to now where he is in his own book, and if they're going to continue his New 52 story, or if they're going to go with the new universe. Because it's a new universe, it's a different Static. Another character that I'm very excited for is Icon. For those of you who don't know Icon, this is a quick breakdown. Icon is basically the Black Superman. Not like Earth 2 Superman, not Val-Zod, who's kind of doing his own thing and used by the government and everything, and not like Earth 23 Black Superman, who is essentially Barack Obama. That's who he's based on. He becomes the president of the United States. That's also a cool story. Let me know if in the comments below if you want me to do a video on that, but that's another cool story. But this is not something like that. He's not necessarily Superman, but his story is kind of similar. So he is basically from the 1800s, his life pod malfunctioned and it landed in Earth, and it wasn't to be fixed, and now he doesn't have the technology to get back. Even today in current day, he doesn't have the technology to be able to get back to his home. So he stayed on Earth. Now, unlike Superman, he was not just a humanoid form right at the beginning, not right off the bat. He basically, the first human that came into contact with him, he adopted her form. So he became a baby human, even though he wasn't actually a human, and he didn't have that form and that look to him. Now, the first form that did catch him, that did find him, was a woman who found him in the cotton fields. And this is back in the 1800s, so you can only imagine what that kind of meant for him. He grew up, first he adopted one name, and then he adopted another. Currently, I believe the latest one was Augustus Freeman. I believe it was the fourth. Don't quote me on that, someone can let me know. But otherwise, Augustus Freeman is basically a corporate lawyer who fights for the little guy and defends black rights and everything. And he's also, in his meantime, being Icon, which is the superpowered hero. Now, with Icon, he also has his sidekick, and that would be Rocket. Rocket was always mostly the protagonist of the Icon book, even though Icon's the big bad, like not the big bad, the big powerful dude. Rocket did feature strongly in it. Rocket is basically someone who saw Icon using his powers when they were trying to kind of rob the house. And he was using his powers, and she was kind of into that, and through that kind of got some sort of power of her own, and can now kind of manifest kinetic energy and use it to like create energy blasts and stuff like that. It's kind of pretty cool. But Rocket and Icon is kind of a really cool story that I'm looking forward to. I do believe Static is going to be a cool story again. They kind of made it a little more childish for kids and everything to get and like, but otherwise, that was for the TV show, I mean. Otherwise, that's also a very cool story of a kid who grows up in the hood. Icon himself is a very cool story of someone who grew up in the cotton field, so I kind of want to see where they go with that, if they're going to start with an origin or something, if it's going to date back in the 1800s, or if they're going to be in current day right now, or maybe like a back and forth or something like that. That'd be cool. Otherwise, I'm very excited to see where Earth M is going to go. I really hope it's within the DC multiverse, because I do want to see Icon kind of mix it up with the Justice League at some point or another through some sort of crisis of the Earths and everything. And it would be very cool to see. It's kind of nice to, it's kind of nice to see black superheroes represented, because Black Superman on Earth 2 is cool, but at the end of the day, he's still Superman with Superman's storyline, and same with Earth 23, the Barack Obama one. It's just really nice that DC has this multiverse where they can tell different stories, and some of those stories, like I said, people are looking for a black superhero to look forward to and to look up to, and as much as I do like Cyborg and he has a cool story, it's tough for people to really get into him because they can't really relate to the Cyborg thing, whereas this superhero grew up in the 1800s, know what black people kind of went through and everything and had their experiences, and at the same time chooses to be of that color and chooses to be that person and advocate for those rights. And to top it all off, it's written by Reginald Hudlin. Reginald Hudlin, someone who produced Django Unchained and did have a lot of input there. He's also done a lot of other stuff, and he did a book that I like, which is Black Panther. Now I'm gonna do a reaction video for the Black Panther trailer that I saw at Comic-Con myself. I haven't seen it since, so it's kind of gonna be new to me as it goes on, but I do want to do a trailer reaction for that, but I want to talk about his Black Panther run. Was very, very cool. He's a great acclaimed writer, so it's nice to see that they're putting strong talent on it. Ken Lashley will be doing the Earth M book, so that's going to be very good to see because he's another great artist, so pairing a great combo team basically to try and handle something this big means that they're really, really trying. They're trying to get it right, and they're trying to do it at the beginning. So let me know what you guys think. You guys excited for Earth M? Do you think it resides in the DC multiverse? Do you want to see the Earth M heroes mix it up with the Justice League Earth Zero heroes? Let me know in the comments. Thanks so much. This is the Markham Knight telling you to like, comment, and subscribe.